Fleet Commander Zekthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and stared at the holographic display before him. 200 warships floated in perfect formation around his vessel. Their hulls gleamed in the light of the distant star. This was the largest military force the Kryloth Dominion had assembled in 3 generations, and it was all meant for one target, the humans. Zekthor's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the red zone on the star map. The other species in the galaxy called it dead space. For 200 years, that section of the galaxy had been marked as forbidden territory. Not because of black holes or radiation storms. No, the reason was far more disturbing. 7 expeditions had entered that space. 7 different species, each sending their best ships and bravest crews. None had ever returned. Not one ship, not one signal, nothing but silence. "Commander, all fleet captains report ready for jump," his second officer announced. The young Kryloth's scales were bright green, showing his excitement. He was too young to understand the weight of this mission. Zekthor turned to face his crew. 30 officers worked at their stations, monitoring weapons, engines, shields, and sensors. They all believed this would be a simple mission. They thought the humans must have some secret weapon, some ancient technology that destroyed the previous fleets. They would find it, neutralize it, and claim the 14 human colony worlds for the Dominion. Easy prey. But Zekthor had read the old reports more carefully than most. He had studied every piece of data about the humans that existed, and something bothered him. The humans had only developed faster than light travel 60 years ago. Before that, they were confined to one solar system. How could such a young species destroy 7 military expeditions from older, more advanced civilizations? "Sir, permission to speak?" asked Officer Velnash, the intelligence specialist. "Granted. I've reviewed the human colony data again. Their technology is average, their ships are fast but lightly armed. Their defense platforms are old designs. We outgun them 10 to 1 in every category." Velnash's confusion was obvious. "I don't understand what happened to the other fleets." Zekthor had wondered the same thing. The Galactic Council's best theory was that humans had found some ancient artifact, a weapon left behind by the precursors who had vanished millions of years ago. But there was no evidence of this. Human transmissions were easily intercepted. They spoke openly on their communication channels. They didn't act like a species hiding a superweapon. "Perhaps the other species made mistakes," Zekthor said. "Perhaps they underestimated the humans. We will not make that error. We go in with overwhelming force. We take the outer colonies first, establish supply lines, and then push toward their home world. Slow and careful." The crew nodded. It was a good plan. A safe plan. "All ships prepare for jump on my mark," Zekthor commanded. His clawed hand hovered over the control panel. "Coordinates locked for the Sol system, outer rim. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Mark." Space twisted. The stars stretched into lines of light. For a moment that felt like an eternity and an instant at the same time. The fleet existed between dimensions. Then reality snapped back into place. They had arrived in human space. The Sol system spread before them on the sensors. 8 planets orbited a yellow star. Asteroid belts. Moons. And on the 3rd planet from the sun, the birthplace of humanity, Earth. But the fleet had jumped in near the 9th planet, far on the outer edge. It was a safe distance to assess the situation. "Scan for defense platforms, warships, and weapon installations," Zekthor ordered. The sensors worked for several minutes. When the results came back, Officer Velnash looked puzzled. "Commander, I'm detecting minimal defenses. 3 orbital platforms around the 6th planet. 2 patrol ships near the asteroid belt. That's all in this sector. What about the 3rd planet? Earth? Heavy orbital traffic, but it's mostly civilian. Cargo ships, passenger transports, satellite networks. I count 20 military vessels in orbit, but they're not moving to intercept us." This made no sense. The humans had to know they were here. The fleet's arrival would have created massive sensor echoes. Yet there was no response. No scrambled fighters. No emergency broadcasts, nothing. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer said. "It's on all frequencies. Audio only. Play it," a human voice came through the speakers. It spoke in Galactic Common, the language used for trade and diplomacy. The voice was calm, almost bored. "Attention, unidentified fleet. You have entered human space. This is restricted territory. Turn back while you still can. This is your only warning." The bridge fell silent. Then one of the younger officers laughed. They're warning us? They have 20 ships and we have 200. Other crew members joined the laughter. Even Zekthor felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. Maybe this would be simple after all. Maybe the humans were just bluffing. Maybe the other fleets had turned back at this warning and simply been too embarrassed to admit it. Send a response, Zekthor ordered. Tell them we are claiming these systems in the name of the Kryloth Dominion. Tell them to surrender their colonies and no one will be harmed. The communications officer worked for a moment, then nodded. Message sent, Commander. They waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. Finally, the human voice returned. It no longer sounded bored. Now it sounded tired, sad almost, so be it. You were warned. The transmission ended. Commander, the human ships are moving. The tactical officer called out. All 20 vessels are breaking orbit from the third planet. They're heading our way. 20 ships against 200. Zekthor shook his head. Are they insane? Do they think they can win? But even as he asked the question, a cold feeling settled in his stomach. He thought of those 7 lost fleets again. They had all been confident too. Battle stations, he commanded. All ships form defensive sphere formation. Target the approaching vessels. Fire on my command only. The fleet moved smoothly into position. Years of training showed in their precision. The Kryloth were warriors. They had conquered 47 worlds. They knew war. The human ships came closer. Sensors identified them. 12 frigates, 5 destroyers, and 3 larger cruisers. Against the Kryloth fleet, they were insects against a storm. They're not slowing down, the tactical officer said. Sir, at their current speed, they'll be in weapons range in 4 minutes. Do they have any hope of victory? Zekthor asked. No, sir. Even if every one of their shots hit a target, and even if we didn't return fire, they could destroy maybe 30 of our ships before being eliminated. Realistically, they might take out 5 or 6 before we wipe them out. Then why attack? No one had an answer. The human fleet entered weapons range. They opened fire first. Missiles and energy beams lanced out from their ships. The Kryloth shields absorbed most of the damage easily. A few shots got through, scorching hull armor but doing no real damage. Return fire, Zekthor ordered. Disable their ships if possible. We want prisoners to interrogate. The Kryloth fleet responded. Hundreds of weapons fired at once. Space lit up with energy blasts. The human ships tried to evade, and Zekthor had to admit they were skilled pilots. They dodged and weaved through the weapons fire with impressive speed. But there were too many shots. Too many targeting systems locked onto them. The first human frigate exploded in a ball of fire. Then a second. A destroyer took a direct hit and split in half. Within 3 minutes, half the human fleet was destroyed. Sir, the remaining human ships are still attacking, the tactical officer said. They're not retreating. What? They've taken severe damage. Their shields are down, but they're still coming at us. They're still firing. Zekthor watched in disbelief as a crippled human destroyer, with its hull breached and venting atmosphere, continued to shoot at his ships. It should have surrendered. It should have fled. Instead, it fired until a Kryloth battlecruiser finally destroyed it completely. Within 5 minutes, all 20 human ships were gone. The Kryloth fleet had lost nothing. Not one ship destroyed. Some minor damage to a few hulls, but nothing serious. Victory. Complete victory. So why did Zekthor feel like he had lost something? Sir, we're detecting 3 defense platforms orbiting the 6th planet, the tactical officer said. Should we destroy them? Yes, clear the way for our advance. The fleet moved forward. The 3 platforms were large structures, each the size of a small moon. They had powerful weapons, but they were stationary targets. The Kryloth ships spread out and attacked from multiple angles. The platforms fought back hard. One Kryloth destroyer took heavy damage and had to retreat. But in the end, the platforms were destroyed. Sir, I'm picking up escape pods from the platforms, the sensor officer said. Should we collect them? Yes, we need prisoners. We need information. 3 landing craft were dispatched to collect the pods. They returned an hour later with 42 human prisoners. Zekthor went down to the holding area to see them himself. The humans were smaller than Kryloth, standing only about 2/3 of his height. They had 2 eyes instead of 4. Their skin was soft, with no scales or natural armor. They looked fragile, weak. And yet when Zekthor looked into their eyes, he saw no fear. Only anger. And something else. Something that made his scales itch. Defiance. I am Fleet Commander Zekthor of the Kryloth Dominion, he announced to the prisoners. Your defense platforms have been destroyed. Your ships have been eliminated. Your colonies will be occupied. Surrender now and you will be treated fairly. Resist and you will be destroyed. Do you understand? The humans stared at him. Then one of them, a female with short dark hair, stepped forward. She wore the torn remnants of a military uniform. Her arm was badly burned, but she ignored the injury. You should have listened, she said quietly. You should have turned back when you had the chance. Are you threatening me? Zekthor almost laughed. You are prisoners. Your fleet is destroyed. What threat could you possibly pose? The woman's expression didn't change. Every species says that at first. Every single one. Then they learn. Learn what? That we don't stop. We never stop. You can kill us, but you can't make us quit. And that's what wins wars. Not ships. Not weapons. The side that refuses to quit. Zekthor stared at her. He thought she was simply in shock, not thinking clearly. He motioned to his guards. Take them to separate cells. We'll question them later. As the guards led the prisoners away, the woman looked back at Zekthor one last time. You'll understand soon enough. They all do. Right before the end. Back on the bridge, Zekthor tried to push the encounter from his mind. He had a job to do. The first phase was complete. They had entered human space and eliminated the initial defenses. Now they needed to secure a foothold. Set course for the moon of the 6th planet, he ordered. Intelligence reports indicate a mining colony there. Population approximately 8,000. It will be our first occupation target. The fleet moved forward. Zekthor watched the stars and thought about the woman's words. They echoed in his mind, mixing with the mystery of the 7 lost fleets. What did the humans know that he didn't? What was he missing? He would find out soon enough. The fleet was committed now. There was no turning back. Whatever secrets human space held, whatever happened to those other expeditions, Zekthor would discover the truth, one way or another. The mining colony on Europa, the 6th planet's largest moon, looked peaceful from orbit. Zekthor watched the settlement through the visual feed. Dozens of domed structures dotted the icy surface. Mining equipment moved slowly between them. Ships came and went from the landing pads, carrying ore and supplies. It looked like an easy target. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the colony, the communications officer said. Let me hear it. A human voice came through. This one sounded older, male. Kryloth Fleet, this is Europa Mining Station 7. We have 8,000 civilians here. Most are miners and their families. We have minimal defensive capabilities. If you attack, we cannot stop you. Zekthor felt a moment of satisfaction. Finally, some sense from these humans. Then you will surrender the colony? There was a pause. Then the voice continued. No, we will not surrender. But we wanted you to know what you're attacking. When you kill 8,000 unarmed people, we wanted you to know their faces. I'm sending you our colony database now. Every person here, their names, their families. Look at them before you kill them. The communication ended. A moment later, data began flooding into the ship's computers. Personnel files, photographs, medical records, children's school assignments, family messages, the entire database of the colony's population. Sir, what should we do with this? The communications officer asked, confused. Zekthor's jaw tightened. Delete it. We don't need it. But even as he gave the order, he caught a glimpse of one of the photographs on a nearby screen. A human child, maybe 5 years old by their aging standards, smiling at the camera. He looked away quickly. Prepare landing forces, he ordered. 2,000 troops. We'll secure the colony by force. Minimize civilian casualties if possible, but the mission comes first. The landing craft descended toward Europa's surface. Zekthor watched from orbit, expecting a quick operation. The colony had no military forces. No weapons platforms. This should take an hour at most. The landing craft touched down. The troops deployed. They approached the first dome structure. And then the shooting started. Sir, we're taking fire, came the panicked voice of Ground Commander Thexnall. Multiple hostiles with small arms, they're everywhere. I thought they had no military, Zekthor barked. They don't, sir. These are civilians, miners with improvised weapons. They're shooting from windows, from doorways, from behind equipment. Zekthor switched to the ground feed cameras. What he saw shocked him. Humans in mining suits and work clothes were fighting his soldiers. They had hunting rifles, construction tools modified into weapons, homemade explosives. They were completely outgunned. A Kryloth soldier's armor could take dozens of their bullets before failing. The Kryloth weapons could cut through walls, but the humans didn't seem to care about the odds. A Kryloth squad entered a building. 3 humans ambushed them from above, dropping mining charges on them. The explosion killed 1 soldier and wounded 2 others. Return fire killed all 3 humans, but as the squad moved forward, more humans attacked from a different angle. "Commander Thexnal, what are your casualties?" Zekthor demanded. 23 dead, 47 wounded, came the response. "We've killed approximately 400 hostiles, but sir, they're not stopping. They're not retreating, they're fighting to the death. 400 dead, 8,000 in the colony. That meant 20 times that many humans were still fighting. And they were taking down Kryloth soldiers at a rate of nearly 1 to 20. For unarmed miners, that was impossible. That was insane. Use heavy weapons, Zekthor ordered. End this quickly." The ground forces brought out plasma cannons and artillery. They began destroying the domes one by one. Humans ran from the collapsing structures, still shooting, still fighting. Some charged directly at the Kryloth troops with nothing but tools and knives. They were cut down, but they never stopped trying. 6 hours later, the colony was secured. Of the 8,000 humans, 73 survived. Most were too badly wounded to fight. The Kryloth had lost 96 soldiers dead and over 200 wounded for taking a mining colony, an undefended mining colony. Zekthor went down to the surface personally. He walked through the ruins of the settlement. Bodies lay everywhere, human bodies. He saw the child from the photograph, lying beside what must have been her parents, all dead. He felt sick. "Interrogate the survivors," he ordered. "I want to know why they fought, why they didn't surrender." The interrogations were brief. The humans all said variations of the same thing. "This is our home. We don't give up our homes. You can kill us, but you can't make us stop fighting. Better to die free than live as slaves." One prisoner, a man who had lost both legs in the fighting, just smiled when questioned. "You think this was bad? Wait until you try taking Earth. This was just a mining colony. Earth has 12 billion people, and every single one of them will fight you just like we did." Zekthor had the man taken to medical care, though he wasn't sure why. Maybe because the man's words chilled him to his core. The fleet moved on. They secured 2 more colonies over the next week. The pattern repeated. Each time the humans refused to surrender. Each time they fought with everything they had. Farmers used their tractors as weapons. Scientists threw chemicals. Teachers shot from schools. Old people set traps. Young people made bombs. Nobody surrendered until they were dead or too broken to fight. The Kryloth fleet had now lost 400 soldiers. They had killed over 30,000 humans. But instead of feeling like conquerors, they felt like they were losing. Each victory cost too much. Each battle took too long, and there were still 11 human colonies left, plus Earth itself. "Sir, we should request reinforcements," Officer Velnash said during a strategy meeting. "Our casualties are too high." "Reinforcements?" Zekthor looked at his intelligence officer. "We have 200 warships against a species that barely has a space navy. We should not need reinforcements." "But sir, the humans fight differently than anyone we've faced before. They don't care about tactical retreat. They don't surrender when outmatched. They just keep fighting until they're all dead. Our soldiers are starting to, well, they're starting to fear the next battle." Zekthor slammed his fist on the table. "Fear? They fear an enemy we're defeating? It's not about winning or losing, sir. It's about the cost." Velnash pulled up casualty reports. "At the last colony, we lost 30 soldiers taking a hospital." "A hospital, sir? The doctors and nurses fought us with surgical tools and IV poles. One of our sergeants was killed by a human female who used a crutch as a weapon. She was missing a leg. She should have been helpless. Instead, she killed him." Silence fell over the room. Zekthor understood now. It wasn't that the humans were winning. It was that they refused to lose. There was a difference. A terrifying difference. "What about space combat?" he asked. "We destroyed their orbital fleet. Surely they don't have many ships left." "That's the problem, sir." Velnash brought up new sensor data. "They do have ships left. Lots of them. We're detecting hundreds of vessels moving in from the outer colonies. But here's what's strange. They're not military ships. They're civilian vessels, cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining ships, even colony transports. And somehow, they've all been armed." "Armed? How?" "We don't know. They've welded cannons to cargo hulls. They've mounted missile racks on passenger decks. One ship appears to be a converted cruise liner with a railgun built from mining equipment. They're using everything they have." Zekthor studied the data. The ships looked ridiculous. They were slow, poorly armored. The weapons were clearly makeshift. Any one of his warships could destroy 3 or 4 of them easily. But there were hundreds of them, and they were all heading straight for his fleet. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet," the communications officer announced. "Put it through." This time, the voice was different. Military, professional, female. "Kryloth Fleet, this is Admiral Chen of the Human Defense Force. You've killed 43,000 of our people. You've destroyed 3 of our colonies. You think you're winning? You're not. You're just making us angry." "We have destroyed your military," Zekthor responded. "We have superior numbers and superior technology. Surrender now and we'll—" "Let me stop you right there." Admiral Chen's voice was cold. "We don't surrender. That's not what we do. You want to know what happened to the other 7 fleets that came here? We can tell you. The Zorvath Empire sent a fleet 80 years ago. We fought them for 11 years. 11 years of constant battle. We lost 2 billion people, but we killed every single one of them. Not one ship escaped. The Hakhtar Collective came 60 years ago. We fought them for 7 years. 1.3 billion dead on our side. Their entire fleet destroyed on theirs. Should I continue?" Zekthor felt his blood turn cold. "You're lying. No species would accept those losses." "Check your historical records," Admiral Chen said. "Or ask the Galactic Council. Ask them why they declared our space off limits. It wasn't because we have superweapons. It was because we're willing to pay the price for victory. Any price. All prices. You can't win," Zekthor said, but his voice sounded weak even to himself. "We outnumber you. So did the others. Here's what you don't understand about humans, Commander. We've been fighting each other for our entire history. We've had wars that killed tens of millions. We've invented thousands of ways to kill. And we've learned one thing. The side that quits loses. We don't quit. Ever. You can kill 99% of us, and that last 1% will still fight you, and they'll win eventually, because you'll run out of soldiers before we run out of will." The transmission ended. Officer Velnash looked pale. "Sir, is she telling the truth? About the other fleets?" "Research it," Zekthor ordered. "I want historical data, now." It took 2 hours, but Velnash returned with reports. Old reports. Classified reports. Reports that had been hidden from the general fleet because they were too disturbing. The Zorvath Empire had indeed sent a fleet. 700 ships. None returned. The Hakhtar Collective. 500 ships. None returned. And the others. All gone. All destroyed not by superweapons but by attrition. By a species that simply refused to stop fighting no matter how many of them died. "By the ancestors," Velnash whispered. "They're not hiding a weapon, they are the weapon." Before Zekthor could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. "Sir, the human fleet just entered weapons range. 367 ships incoming. They're not using formation tactics. They're just swarming at us." Zekthor looked at the tactical display. The human ships came at them like angry insects. No coordination, no strategy, just rage and determination. And every single one of those ships had guns pointed at his fleet. "Battle stations," he ordered. "All ships engage." The battle began. and for the first time in his military career, Zekthor wasn't sure he would win. The battle was chaos. Pure, complete chaos. Zekthor had fought in 17 major fleet engagements during his career. He understood tactics, formations, and strategy, but the humans understood none of these things. Or perhaps they understood them and simply didn't care. The civilian ships came first. A converted cargo hauler, still painted with the logo of a shipping company, fired missiles at the Kryloth fleet. The missiles were crude, probably designed for mining asteroids. They did minimal damage to the shields. A Kryloth destroyer fired back and the cargo ship exploded in a ball of fire. But behind it came 20 more ships just like it. "Sir, we're being swarmed," the tactical officer shouted. "They're not maintaining safe distances. Some of these ships are flying within meters of each other. Then they'll hit each other when they explode," Zekthor said. "Focus fire. Destroy them systematically." The Kryloth fleet opened fire. Their weapons were precise and deadly. One shot, one kill. The human civilian ships fell like leaves in a storm. Within the first 10 minutes, the Kryloth had destroyed 78 human vessels. But the humans kept coming. A passenger liner, still with viewing windows along its side, rammed straight into a Kryloth cruiser. Both ships exploded. 2 Kryloth escort vessels were caught in the blast and sustained heavy damage. "They're insane," Officer Velnash screamed. "They're using suicide tactics. All ships increase separation." Zekthor ordered, "Don't let them get close enough to ram." But the human ships were fast, and there were so many of them. For every one destroyed, 2 more took its place. The Kryloth fleet was killing them at an incredible rate, but the humans didn't slow down, didn't retreat, didn't show any sense of self-preservation. A mining vessel, its hull covered in improvised armor plates, flew straight into a Kryloth battleship's shield. The shield held, but the mining ship detonated. The explosion was massive, far larger than it should have been. "Sir, that ship was loaded with explosives," the sensor officer reported. "It was a bomb. All ships watch for suicide vessels. Maximum defensive fire." 3 more ships, all loaded with explosives, tried to reach the Kryloth fleet. 2 were destroyed before impact. The third hit a destroyer and tore a massive hole in its side. The destroyer began venting atmosphere and fell out of formation. And through it all, the humans kept broadcasting. Not threats, not demands. Just information. "This is the cargo ship Brightness. We were hauling food supplies. 23 crew. We all have families. But we're here to fight. For Earth. For humanity. This is the transport New Dawn. We were carrying colonists to Alpha Centauri. 600 people on board. We turned around to defend our home. We will not let you take it. This is the mining ship Rockbreaker. 12 crew. We've loaded our ore holds with every explosive we could find. If we reach you, we're taking one of your ships with us. For humanity. For freedom." Every ship that was destroyed, every crew that died, they broadcast their names and their purpose right until the end. It wasn't tactical. It wasn't strategic. It was psychological warfare of the cruelest kind. The Kryloth crews heard every death, every sacrifice, every defiant last word. "Sir, fleet morale is dropping," Velnash reported quietly. The cruiser rattled. "They're killing hundreds of enemies, but it feels like they're losing." Zekthor understood why. Victory was supposed to feel triumphant. This felt like murder. Necessary murder, perhaps, but murder nonetheless. The humans weren't soldiers. They were shopkeepers and teachers and miners and farmers, and they were all dying to stop his fleet. Behind the civilian fleet, military vessels approaching. The sensor officer called out. The real human defense force arrived. These were proper warships, sleek destroyers and heavy cruisers. Their weapons were military grade. Their shields were strong. And unlike the civilian fleet, these crews knew what they were doing. "Finally, a real fight," Zekthor muttered. "All ships target the military vessels." These are actual threats. The 2 fleets clashed. The human military ships were fewer in number, maybe 60 vessels against the Kryloth fleet's remaining 173. But they fought with skill and precision. They used the debris from the destroyed civilian ships as cover. They coordinated their attacks. They targeted damaged Kryloth vessels and finished them off. Within an hour, the Kryloth fleet had lost 14 more ships, but the humans had lost 30 of their military vessels. It was still a victory for the Kryloth, still winning by the numbers. But Zekthor looked at the casualty reports and felt sick. His fleet had killed over 400 human ships. Thousands of humans were dead. and he had only advanced one more system toward Earth. At this rate, how many would die before Earth fell? How many of his own people would he lose? "Sir, incoming transmission from Earth," the communications officer said. "Put it through." A human face appeared on the screen. An old male with white hair and tired eyes. "Commander Zekthor, I am President Walker of the United Earth Government. I'm watching this battle from my office. I've seen our casualty reports. Over 11,000 dead in the last 2 hours. And I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you." "What?" Zekthor asked. Every single one of them volunteered. "The civilian fleet? We didn't order them to fight. We didn't conscript them. We announced that your fleet was coming, and they came to defend Earth on their own. We actually had to turn away thousands of ships because we couldn't coordinate them all. Do you understand what that means?" Zekthor said nothing. "It means you're not fighting a military commander. You're fighting a species, all 12 billion of us, and we're all willing to die to stop you. So I'll ask you one time and one time only. Leave now. Leave while you still can, because if you come to Earth, every man, woman, and child on this planet will fight you, and we will win. Not because we're stronger, but because we will never ever stop." The transmission ended. Officer Velnash pulled up data files. "Sir, I've been researching human military history. Their wars. I think you need to see this." Files appeared on the holographic display. Historical records from Earth's past. Zekthor read them with growing horror. World War II. A conflict on Earth that lasted 6 years. Over 70 million humans died. 70 million. That was more than the total population of 12 Kryloth worlds. And the humans considered it just one war among many. The Siege of Leningrad. A single city held out for nearly 900 days while under attack. Over 1 million civilians died from starvation and shelling. But the city never surrendered. The Vietnam War. A small human nation fought against a superpower for 20 years. They were outgunned, outmanned. They should have lost in months. Instead, they fought until the superpower gave up and went home. And there were hundreds more. Thousands of years of constant warfare. Humans fighting humans. Developing new weapons, new tactics, new ways to kill and survive and win. They had turned war into an art form. "Sir, here's what scares me most," Velnash said, pointing to a document. This is from one of their ancient military theorists. His name was Sun Tzu. He wrote this over 2,000 years ago. "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle." "What's your point?" Zekthor asked. "My point, sir, is that humans have been studying warfare for thousands of years. They fought each other so much that they've written books about how to win. Multiple books. Libraries full of them. They have military academies that are older than our entire dominion. War isn't something they do. It's something they are." Zekthor looked back at the battle display. The human fleet was retreating now, pulling back toward inner system. They had lost this engagement. The Kryloth had won, but it didn't feel like a victory. "Casualties?" he asked. 32 ships destroyed, 41 damaged. 15,000 crew dead or wounded. 15,000. In one battle, against an enemy that was supposed to be weak. "Sir, we're receiving distress signals," the communications officer said. "From the colonies we occupied. They're under attack." "Under attack? By whom?" "We destroyed the human military in those systems." "Not by military, sir. By guerrilla forces. The human civilians we left alive, they're attacking our occupation troops." Zekthor pulled up the reports. At the Europa colony, where they had left a garrison of 300 soldiers, the humans were fighting back. The 73 survivors had somehow acquired weapons. They had recruited children as scouts, old people as bomb makers. They were hitting the Kryloth garrison in small attacks. A sniper here, a bombing there. Nothing major, but constant, never-ending. The same pattern was repeating at the other 2 occupied colonies. Humans who should have been broken, who should have been defeated, were instead organizing resistance movements. They were learning how to fight, adapting, evolving their tactics. "Sir, the garrison commander at Europa requests reinforcements," Velnash said. "They can't maintain security with their current numbers. Tell them to hold position. We can't spare ships right now." "Sir, they say the humans have started broadcasting instructions on how to make bombs. They're teaching the children. They're creating weapons from mining equipment. If we don't reinforce them, they might lose the colony. Lose it? To whom? There were only 73 survivors. There were 73 2 weeks ago, sir. Now there are apparently 200 active fighters. They've been sneaking into the ruins, finding survivors we missed, building an army from the rubble. Zekthor wanted to scream. How was this possible? They had won every battle. They had killed thousands of humans. They occupied 3 colonies. By every military metric, they were succeeding. So why did it feel like they were losing? A junior officer approached cautiously. Commander, I found something. In the human databases. I think you should see it. The officer pulled up a video file. It showed a human male from Earth's past standing at a podium, speaking to a crowd. The speech was old, from one of their ancient wars. But the words echoed across time. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France, we shall fight on the seas and oceans, we shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. The video ended. The bridge was silent. They said that during their World War II. The junior officer explained quietly. Their entire nation was about to be invaded. They were outgunned. Alone. Every military expert said they would lose. And they said they would never surrender. And they didn't. They fought for 6 years. They lost 400,000 people. And they won. Zekthor looked at his fleet, at his soldiers, at the stars that separated them from Earth. And for the first time in his career, he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. All ships, he said slowly. Prepare for the push to Earth. We end this now. One final battle. We commit everything we have. We cannot sustain this kind of warfare. It's them or us. The fleet formed up and began the journey to humanity's homeworld. Behind them, the ruins of the battle floated in space. Thousands of dead humans, thousands of dead Kryloth. And ahead of them, Earth waited. 12 billion humans who had just watched their brothers and sisters die to buy them time. 12 billion humans who now knew exactly what was coming. And not one of them was planning to surrender. The journey to Earth took 3 days. 3 days of watching the casualty reports from the occupied colonies grow worse. 3 days of intercepting human communications and learning things Zekthor wished he didn't know. The humans were broadcasting everything. Not military communications that could be encrypted or hidden. They were using public channels. Open channels. They wanted the Kryloth fleet to hear. Attention, all Earth citizens. Mandatory civil defense training begins tomorrow. Every person aged 12 to 70 will report to their local militia center. We will teach you to fight. We will teach you to build weapons. We will teach you to survive. The Kryloth are coming. We will be ready. Another broadcast, this one from a human teacher. I'm broadcasting this lesson to all schools on Earth. Children, today we're learning chemistry. Specifically, we're learning about exothermic reactions and how certain household chemicals can create explosive effects. This is important for your survival. They were teaching children to make bombs, teaching them on public broadcasts where anyone could hear, including the Kryloth fleet. Sir, this is a violation of warfare conventions, Officer Velnash protested. Children are non-combatants. They can't train children to fight. It's barbaric. Tell them that, Zekthor said tiredly. He gestured to the communications console. Send them a message. Tell them that using child soldiers will result in severe consequences. The message was sent. The response came back within an hour. President Walker's face appeared on screen again. He looked older than before, more tired, but his eyes burned with determination. Commander Zekthor, you seem to misunderstand something fundamental about humanity. We don't have soldiers and civilians. When our home is threatened, we're all soldiers. Every single one of us. Our children aren't innocent bystanders in this war. They're the future we're fighting for, and they have just as much right to defend themselves as anyone else. You want us to keep our children safe and innocent? Then turn your fleet around and go home. The transmission ended. Velnash looked ill. Sir, they're going to arm children. They're going to put weapons in the hands of their young. What kind of species does that? A desperate one, Zekthor said. But even as he spoke, he knew that wasn't quite right. The humans didn't seem desperate. They seemed determined. There was a difference. Desperate people made mistakes. Desperate people panicked. The humans were doing neither. They were methodical, organized. They knew exactly what they were doing. Sir, intelligence report from our scouts, another officer said. They've been monitoring Earth's industrial output. You need to see this. Data appeared on the screen. Earth's factories had been completely converted to military production. Every car manufacturer was now making armored vehicles. Every electronics factory was making guidance systems for missiles. Every chemical plant was making explosives. Construction crews were building bunkers and fortifications. Farms were being converted to produce only essential foods. They've militarized their entire economy, the officer explained. In 3 weeks. 3 weeks, sir. That's how long it took them to turn a peaceful civilization into a war machine. How is that possible? Zekthor asked. Economic conversion takes months, years. Not for humans, apparently. I found historical records. During their World War II, they did the same thing. The United States went from a peacetime economy to full war production in less than a year. They built 300,000 aircraft, 12,000 ships, millions of vehicles. In 4 years, their entire society transformed. Zekthor stared at the data. That's impossible. No, sir. It's human. The fleet continued toward Earth, and every day the Kryloth soldiers grew more nervous. It showed in their combat performance. At the occupied colonies, the garrisons were struggling. The human resistance was growing bolder. At Europa, a Kryloth supply convoy was ambushed. 8 soldiers dead. The attackers melted away into the ruins before reinforcements arrived. Security cameras caught images of the attackers. One was a human female who looked to be about 60 years old by their aging standards. She carried a rifle made from mining equipment and wore a jacket covered in pockets filled with homemade grenades. Another attack hit the garrison's food supplies. Poison. 3 dozen soldiers sick. 2 dead. The culprit was caught, a human child who looked to be about 13. When interrogated, the child simply said, "My parents died in the invasion. I wanted revenge." "Sir, the garrison commanders are requesting permission to execute the resistance fighters we capture," Velnash said. "Denied," Zekthor said immediately. "We're not executioners. Sir, with respect, the humans will see it as weakness. They'll keep attacking. Let them. If we start executing prisoners, especially children, we become the monsters they say we are. The Dominion doesn't murder children." But even as he said it, Zekthor knew the humans didn't care about such distinctions. To them, the Kryloth were invaders. Nothing more. Nothing less. And invaders deserve no mercy. 2 days from Earth, the fleet received another broadcast. This one was different. It wasn't from the government. It wasn't from the military. It was from ordinary humans. Thousands of them, all saying the same thing. "My name is Sarah Chen. I'm a teacher from Beijing. I have 2 children. If you come to Earth, I will fight you. I will kill as many of you as I can, and I will die free rather than live as your prisoner. My name is Marcus Johnson. I'm a farmer from Iowa. I've never held a gun before 3 weeks ago. Now I can strip and clean a rifle in under a minute. Come to my farm. I dare you. My name is Elena Rodriguez. I'm a doctor. I've taken an oath to save lives, but I will break that oath to defend my home. I've learned to make poison. I've learned to set traps. Come to my hospital. I'll show you what a doctor can do when you threaten her patients." On and on. Thousands of messages, tens of thousands, all promising the same thing: resistance, death, defiance. "Sir, it's psychological warfare," Velnash said. "They're trying to break our morale." "I know what it is," Zekthor snapped. "And it's working." He looked around the bridge. His crew was scared. He could see it in their body language, in the way they avoided eye contact, in the way their hands trembled slightly at their stations. These were trained warriors, veterans of multiple campaigns, and they were frightened of a species they had been defeating in every battle. "Sir, perhaps we should reconsider this invasion," Velnash said quietly. "We've lost 37% of our fleet. Our occupied colonies are costing us resources we can't afford. And Earth?" He gestured to the communications display. "Earth is going to be worse. Much worse. We can't turn back now," Zekthor said. "The Dominion sent us to conquer human space. If we retreat, we admit defeat. We'll be seen as weak. Other species will question our strength. Better to seem weak than to lose everything," Zekthor wanted to argue. But he couldn't because Velnash was right. This invasion was costing more than anyone had predicted, and they hadn't even reached the real battle yet. "Sir, enemy contacts," the sensor officer shouted. "Multiple ships emerging from Earth orbit. Hundreds of them." The main screen lit up with tactical data. The human fleet was coming out to meet them. But this wasn't like before. This fleet was massive. Over 1,000 ships. And these weren't converted civilian vessels. These were warships. Real warships. Where did they get so many ships? Zekthor demanded. Sir, our intelligence was wrong, Velnash said, scanning the data frantically. We thought Earth only had a small defense fleet, but they've been building ships in secret. Hidden shipyards, moon bases, asteroid facilities. They've been preparing for this war for decades. But we've been monitoring their communications for years. They used false signals, sir. Decoys. They let us think they were weak. But they were preparing. They knew someone would invade eventually. They've been ready for years. Zekthor felt his heart sink. They had walked into a trap. Not a tactical trap, a strategic one. The humans had played weak. They had let the Kryloth think they could win. And now, with the fleet deep in human space, far from reinforcements, the truth was revealed. The human fleet wasn't small. It wasn't weak. It was a sledgehammer. And it was coming down on the Kryloth with all the force humanity could muster. All ships, battle formation, Zekthor ordered. Prepare for engagement. But even as he gave the orders, he noticed something. The human fleet wasn't moving into normal battle formation. They were forming something else. Something he didn't recognize. What are they doing? He asked. I don't know, sir, the tactical officer said. That formation doesn't make tactical sense. They're too close together, too vulnerable to area weapons. Then the human fleet attacked, and Zekthor understood. They weren't using standard tactics. They were using human tactics, learned from thousands of years of warfare against themselves. They divided into small groups. They attacked from multiple angles. They coordinated in ways that seemed random, but were actually carefully planned. And they used kamikaze ships, dozens of them. Ships loaded with explosives that rammed into Kryloth vessels before they could be shot down. The battle was chaos. The Kryloth fleet tried to maintain formation, but the humans wouldn't let them. They attacked weak points. They singled out damaged vessels. They used their own destroyed ships as obstacles and cover. Sir, we're being boarded, an officer shouted. Multiple ships report human boarding parties. Boarded? How? They're using small assault craft, fast ones. They're bypassing our shields by flying directly into our hangar bays during the confusion of battle. Zekthor switched to internal security feeds. Human soldiers were fighting their way through his ships. And they were wrong. They moved wrong. They fought wrong. They didn't follow standard breach and clear protocols. They were chaotic, unpredictable, deadly. A squad of Kryloth soldiers set up a defensive position at a corridor intersection. Standard tactics said the humans would have to come through that corridor. So the Kryloth waited. The humans blew a hole through the wall and attacked from the side. Another squad tried to flush out human borders with gas weapons. The humans had somehow predicted this and were wearing sealed suits. They walked through the gas and shot the Kryloth soldiers before they could reload. Sir, boarding parties on decks 4, 6, and 9 of the flagship, the security chief reported. They're trying to reach the reactor. All security teams converge on engineering. Don't let them reach the core. But even as Zekthor gave the order, he heard the sound of fighting in the corridor outside the bridge. They were already here, already that close. Lock down the bridge, he ordered. Seal all doors. The doors slammed shut, reinforced blast doors that could withstand plasma fire. The bridge crew grabbed their weapons. They would hold this position. They had to. Then the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. And in that red light, Zekthor heard something that made his blood run cold, scratching metal on metal. The humans were cutting through the door. How long until the door fails? He asked. 10 minutes, sir. Maybe 15. Zekthor looked around the bridge. 30 crew members, all armed, against however many humans were outside. And through the ship's communication system, he could hear fighting. His ship was being taken apart from the inside. Sir, we're losing, Velnash said quietly. Multiple ships have gone dark. We can't contact them. We have to assume they've been captured or destroyed. How many ships have we lost? 43 confirmed destroyed. 21 not responding. And we've only been fighting for 2 hours. 2 hours. 63 ships gone, more than a third of his remaining fleet. And the humans were still coming. The scratching at the door grew louder. They were almost through. Zekthor made a decision. All ships retreat full burn. Get out of human space now. Sir, we can't abandon the invasion. We already have. We lost this war before it started. We just didn't know it. Now move. The fleet began to retreat, but the humans chased them. Even as the Kryloth ships fled at maximum speed, human vessels pursued. Not to engage, just to follow. To make sure the Kryloth kept running. The scratching stopped. The door slid open. But instead of soldiers, a single human stepped through. A male, young. He held a rifle but didn't point it at Zekthor. You're leaving, the human said. It wasn't a question. Yes? Good. Tell your people what you found here. Tell them what happens when you invade human space. I will, Zekthor said. Then because he had to know how. How did you win? We had better weapons, better ships, better training. The human smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was tired. Sad. Because we were willing to pay the price. Any price, all prices. We don't fight to win quickly. We fight until the enemy gives up. And we never ever give up first. The human lowered his rifle and walked away, leaving Zekthor alive, leaving him to spread the warning. The Kryloth fleet fled human space with only 64 ships remaining. Behind them, Earth began the long process of counting their dead and rebuilding. The war had cost them 7 million lives, 7 million people who would never go home. But Earth still stood, and the invaders were running. That made it a victory. The most expensive victory humanity had ever won, but a victory nonetheless. The remains of the Kryloth fleet limped through space. 64 ships out of 200, 32% survival rate, the worst military disaster in Dominion history. And Zekthor commanded what was left. His flagship, the Eternal Dominion, was barely functional. Hull breaches on 6 decks, main weapons offline, half the crew dead or wounded. The ship smelled of burned metal and blood. Both Kryloth blood and human blood. The boarding parties had been eliminated, but not before they had caused catastrophic damage. Sir, the human pursuit ships are breaking off, the sensor officer reported. They're returning to Earth. Finally, Velnash muttered. He looked like he had aged 10 years in the past 3 days. His scales were dull. His eyes were haunted. I thought they would chase us all the way to Dominion space. They wanted to make sure we were really leaving, Zekthor said. He understood now. The humans weren't interested in conquest. They weren't interested in expansion. They just wanted to be left alone. And they were willing to kill anyone who wouldn't respect that wish. Sir, incoming communication from Dominion High Command, the communications officer said. Zekthor straightened his uniform. This would not be a pleasant conversation. Put them through. The face of High Admiral Kexfar appeared on screen. His expression was cold, angry. Commander Zekthor, explain yourself. We sent you to conquer 14 human colonies. Instead, you've retreated with barely a quarter of your fleet. What happened? We underestimated the humans, sir. Underestimated? You had 200 ships against a primitive species. They're not primitive, sir. They're different. We thought they would fight like other species. They don't. They fight like... Zekthor struggled to find the words. Like they have nothing to lose. Like death is preferable to defeat. That's ridiculous. Every species fears death. Not humans, sir. Or if they do fear it, they do it anyway. I watched a human frigate with a crew of 20 attack a battleship with a crew of 3,000. The frigate was destroyed in seconds, but before it died, it transmitted a message. We will not stop. We will never stop. Earth will be free. That's what we're fighting. Not a military. Not a government. A philosophy. High Admiral Kexfar's expression didn't change. You failed, Commander. You had every advantage and you failed. The Dominion cannot accept this. You will return to home space immediately. You will face a military tribunal, and you will likely be executed for this disaster. I understand, sir, but before that happens, I need to brief the Council. I need to tell them what I learned. What the humans are capable of. The Council doesn't want to hear excuses. It's not an excuse, sir. It's a warning. The humans are not like other species. If the Dominion ever tries to invade them again, we will lose. Not might lose. We'll lose. Every ship. Every soldier, everything. High Admiral Kexfar leaned forward. Are you saying the humans are militarily superior to the Dominion? No, sir. I'm saying something worse. I'm saying they don't care about military superiority. They don't care about casualties. They don't care about logistics or supply lines or strategic advantage. They only care about one thing, not losing. And they will do anything, sacrifice anything to avoid losing. That makes them more dangerous than any superweapon. The High Admiral was quiet for a long moment. You sound like you respect them. I fear them, sir. There's a difference. Respect is for equals. Fear is for things that can destroy you no matter how strong you are. The transmission ended. Zekthor sat in his command chair and stared at the stars. The fleet would be home in 4 weeks. Then he would face trial. Probably execution. The Dominion didn't tolerate failure, especially failure on this scale, but it didn't matter. He had survived long enough to deliver his warning. That was all that mattered now. Sir, we're receiving another transmission, the communications officer said nervously. It's from human space. From Earth. Let me hear it. The voice was familiar. President Walker. Commander Zekthor, I wanted to speak with you before you returned to your people. Not as enemies, just as survivors of something terrible. Zekthor hesitated. Then, I'm listening. We counted our dead. 7 million people. 12 colonies damaged. Billions in infrastructure destroyed. This was the bloodiest war humanity has fought in 200 years. And I want you to know something. We didn't want it. We gave you every chance to turn back. We warned you repeatedly, but you came anyway. We were following orders. I know, and that's the tragedy of it. Good soldiers following bad orders. It's the oldest story in the universe. But here's what I need you to understand. Earth will rebuild. We always do. In 20 years, there will be no sign we ever fought this war. We'll have more ships, more weapons, more people, and we'll be stronger than before. Because that's what we do. We adapt, we overcome, we survive. Is that a threat? No, it's a statement of fact. But here's the important part. We don't want to fight you again. We don't want to fight anyone. We just want to be left alone. So I'm asking you, when you get home, tell your leaders what you saw here. Tell them what it cost to invade human space. Tell them that we are not worth the price. They won't listen. The Dominion doesn't accept defeat easily. Then we'll be ready when they come back. But I hope they don't, for their sake and ours, because next time, Commander, we won't be as merciful. Next time, we won't let you leave. Do you understand? Zekthor understood perfectly. This war had been a warning, a demonstration. The humans had held back. They could have pursued his fleet, could have destroyed every ship. Instead, they let him go. Let him carry the message home. I understand, Zekthor said, and I will deliver your message. Though I cannot guarantee it will be heard, that's all I can ask. Safe travels, Commander. I hope we never meet again. The transmission ended. Officer Velnash approached Zekthor's chair quietly. Sir, permission to speak freely? Granted. Are we going to tell them the truth? When we get home? Are we going to tell them that we didn't just lose a battle? That we lost because humans are what they are? Yes, I will tell them everything. And then they will probably execute me for incompetence. But at least the truth will be on record. At least future generations will know what happened here. Do you think they'll listen? Zekthor thought about the High Admiral's face. The anger, the disbelief, the refusal to accept that the mighty Dominion could be defeated by a younger species. No, I don't think they will. Not at first. Pride is a powerful thing. But eventually, after enough failures, after enough losses, they'll have to accept it. Humans are not to be conquered. What happened to the other fleets? Velnash asked. The 7 that came before us. Did the humans let them leave too? I don't know. I don't want to know. But I suspect not. I suspect we're the first ones the humans let go. Maybe they learned mercy, or maybe they're just tired of killing. The fleet continued its journey home, and as they traveled, Zekthor compiled his report, a comprehensive document detailing everything he had learned about humans. Their tactics, their psychology, their history, their capabilities. He included casualty figures, tactical analysis, and strategic recommendations. The primary recommendation was simple. Declare human space permanently off limits. Establish a quarantine zone. Never attempt invasion again. 4 weeks later, the fleet arrived at Dominion space. They were met not with celebration but with shame. News of the disaster had already spread. The families of the dead demanded answers. The military demanded accountability. The politicians demanded someone to blame. Zekthor was arrested immediately upon arrival. He was taken to the capital world, placed in a cell. Given 3 days to prepare his defense, there was no defense. He had failed. That was all that mattered to the court. The tribunal was held in the grand chamber. Thousands watched. Zekthor stood alone before the judges and told his story. He explained what happened, why they lost, what the humans were capable of. The judges listened in silence. When he finished, the lead judge spoke. Commander Zekthor, you claim that humans are somehow special, that they possess a quality that makes them impossible to defeat. Do you have evidence for this? Yes, Your Honor. I have video recordings, casualty reports, tactical analyses, all in my report. We've reviewed your report. It reads like propaganda, like excuses. You say humans fight with irrational determination. You say they don't fear death. You say they turn their entire civilization into a weapon. These claims are extraordinary. They are also true. Perhaps, or perhaps you simply failed to execute proper military strategy. Perhaps you were outmaneuvered by a clever enemy, and now seek to avoid responsibility by claiming they're somehow superhuman. I don't claim they're superhuman, Your Honor. I claim they're dangerously determined. There's a difference. The court will review all evidence and render judgment tomorrow. Zekthor was taken back to his cell. He didn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about the human soldier who had spared him, the young male who could have killed him but chose not to, who had delivered the message, "Tell your people what happens when you invade human space." The next day, the verdict was announced. Guilty of gross military incompetence, guilty of wasting Dominion resources, guilty of bringing shame upon the military. The sentence, death by execution. But before the sentence could be carried out, something unexpected happened. The Galactic Council intervened. Representatives from 12 different species contacted the Dominion. They had all heard about the failed invasion, and they all had the same message: leave the humans alone. The Tivek Collective sent a recording. It showed ruins of a Tivek fleet that had invaded human space 90 years ago. 600 ships, all destroyed. The recording was a warning. We thought we could win. We were wrong. Do not make our mistake. The Zorvax Empire sent casualty figures from their invasion 80 years ago. 700 ships sent. None returned. Estimated human casualties, 2 billion. Estimated Zorvax casualties, 100%. The pattern repeated. Every species that had entered human space and tried to conquer it had been destroyed. Some had lost entire fleets. Others had lost entire colonial armies. All had learned the same lesson. Humans don't surrender. The Galactic Council delivered an official statement. Human space is hereby declared a permanent exclusion zone. All member species are forbidden from entering without explicit human permission. Any species that violates this edict does so at their own risk, with no expectation of assistance or support from the Council. The Dominion had no choice but to accept. They couldn't fight humans and the rest of the galaxy at the same time. Zekthor's sentence was commuted to exile. He was stripped of his rank. His property was confiscated. He was sent to a frontier world to live out his days in obscurity. He didn't mind. He was alive. That was more than most of his fleet could say. Years passed. Zekthor lived quietly on his frontier world. He rarely spoke to anyone, but occasionally young officers would visit him. Officers who were curious about the legendary failed invasion, who wanted to hear the story from someone who had been there. Zekthor always told them the same thing. Humans are not special because of what they have. They're special because of what they're willing to give up. They will sacrifice everything for freedom, every resource, every comfort, every life, including their own. That's not something you can fight. That's not something you can defeat. You can only avoid it. Some of the officers listened. Others didn't believe him. Zekthor didn't try to convince them. Time would teach them, just as it had taught him. Meanwhile, at the edge of human space, a new warning beacon activated. It replaced the old one that had been destroyed in the war. The message was updated, stronger, clearer. Warning. You are entering human space. Turn back. This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is a statement of fact. 7 fleets have entered this space-seeking conquest. 8 fleets if you count the Kraloth. None succeeded. Most never returned. This is your only warning. Humanity shows no mercy to invaders. Humanity never surrenders. Humanity never stops fighting. If you enter this space with hostile intent, you will die here. Your ships will become debris. Your crews will become statistics, your names will become warnings for others. Turn back while you still can. And beneath the message, in every language known to the galaxy, a simple statement. They came for resources. They came for territory. They came for glory. They left in body bags. Don't be next. The beacon broadcast continuously. A warning. A promise. A statement of fact. And every species in the galaxy heard it. And every species understood. Human space was forbidden. Not because humans were the strongest. Not because they had the best weapons. But because they had something more valuable than strength or technology. They had will. Infinite, unbreakable, indomitable will. And that made them more dangerous than any superweapon ever could be. Back on Earth, President Walker stood at a memorial. 7 million names were carved into a wall of black stone. 7 million people who had died defending their home. She placed a hand on the cold stone and whispered words that only the dead could hear. You did it. You kept Earth free. They came with 200 ships thinking we were weak. They left with 64 ships knowing we're not. The galaxy knows now. They know what happens when you threaten humanity. You can rest now. Your sacrifice won't be forgotten. She turned to her security detail. Let's go. We have a lot of rebuilding to do. As she walked away, she didn't look back. The dead were honored. The war was over. Now came the hard part, peace. But Earth would manage. They always did. Because that's what humans do. They fight when they must. They rebuild when they can. And they never ever give up. That was the lesson the Kryloth learned. That was the lesson written in blood across the stars. That was the reason no one came back from human space. Not because humans killed them all, but because humans taught them a truth more fundamental than any weapon. Some things are worth dying for. Freedom is one of them, and humanity would pay any price to remain free. That was the warning that echoed across the galaxy. That was the story that would be told for generations. That was the answer to the question that had puzzled the galaxy for 200 years. They jumped into human space, and they finally knew why none came back. Because humans don't know how to quit, and in war that's the only victory condition that matters.